Our first speaker today is Nigel Kreiser. Nigel is the host of Sunday Lunch Project Manager, a program manager with over 25 years of experience leading change for public and private organizations across a vast array of sectors and technologies. His latest book, Project Manager Productivity Hacks, is helping project managers around the globe get out of the office a little bit earlier than before. And he's here today to reveal to us some of these hacks. Nigel, welcome. Do you really advise people not to read their emails?
You'll find out, yeah, but absolutely yes, I do. There are some radical ideas in here that I've used over the last 25 years in project management. So hopefully, a couple of ideas that people can use to help with coping with the hybrid processes that we've had and had to adopt, which have kind of put pressure on all of us over these past couple of years.
Thank you very much, Nigel. We're very excited to hear some of these hacks today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, first thing I'd really like to say is thank you very much for having me here. It's an honor to come and present to you. As Ayaliki said, I've been in project management 25 years, project program, portfolio management, wide-ranging industries and commercial constructs and varying teams and delivery sizes. And over that time, I've discovered a number of different ways of managing my time. And at the moment, I think with the way that things have gone over the past few years, we have changed what we're doing, and we had to look at what we did differently. And I think we've had a lot of pressure from this change in hybrid. And even before that, if we had 30 minutes extra every day, we'd want it and we'd grab it as a project manager. But finding that 30 minutes has always been difficult. And what would you do with it? Would you attend more meetings? Would you spend more time with your staff, do more training, maybe grab some lunch, or leave early to go home to the family? And my goal in writing the book, kind of driven out of some of the ideas of the pandemic, were that when I was stepping out of my door at home, I was full on all day. I didn't get that time to break, and I was sure there was better ways to do it and use some of the tools that sometimes I'd let slip. But I'm sure that if I could show you 30 minutes a day, you'd appreciate that. So I ask a question to people as who thinks they are as productive as they could be. Have a think about it. And how many allocate time to being more productive? We are so focused, and again, the emphasis on productivity and discussions about whether hybrid working is more productive than in-person working is being discussed and debated. And we spend, as a group of project managers, a lot of time focusing on how we can improve our timelines, how we can reduce costs, improve processes, help our teams do better. We are productive focus. We hone down on trying to get better and more effective and efficient. But sometimes we forget that we are part of the resources that we're custodians for. Our employers ask us to look after resources, but we're part of that. And we end up doing tasks that we should we do, maybe not. Maybe doing tasks that we don't think are good things you would delegate to your teams. The first thing I wanted to talk about really is notifications. We all have devices. We've had lots more digital messaging compared to what we used to have. And actually, for a long time, I've not had mine on. Excuse the language, but it's a simple answer. Turn the notifications off on all of your tools. And the reason I say that is if you've got notifications on, you are not as effective as you could be. whether it's your phone, your computer, your Alexa, your Siri, your Slack, whatever device it is, turn your notifications off. Apologies for the language. And take a moment to look at this picture. Unfortunately, I don't know who produced this picture. I would love to credit them. It was sent to me by a friend over LinkedIn. Does anyone relate to this? I certainly do. When I have my devices on and I'm trying to focus, getting that flow state to get myself writing a important email or an important report, a proposal, pulling together a business case, a review for one of your team, and you get your phone pinging, your email toast popping up with, it says your boss sent you an email, and you think, what should I do that? You context switch. That context switching means the task that you started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, for some reason, takes you till 6 o'clock in the evening to finish. It's an hour's task. It's a 2-hour task, whatever. But you are getting interrupted constantly. There was a study done by the Department of Informatics and University in California, Irvine, which I've personally and others have misinterpreted on how much time and the cost of interrupted work is. They found that the stress levels, the error rate, and the quality of the outputs of individuals when they get interruptions is significantly decreased. Now, there are some calls to say that the amount of time it takes to do this is 23 minutes to get back in. So when you are interrupted and disturbed, it takes you 23 minutes to get into the same state that you were. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not as productive. Not as you're completely unproductive, should I say. It just means that you're not as productive as you could do. Now, even if it was 5 minutes and you say we had 3 things, your phone bings, your email notifications pop up, your Teams or Slack or WhatsApp pops up, and each of those happen 10 times in a day. If it takes you 5 minutes to get back to your level of productivity, your level of flow that you were in before, and in each of those you add 5 of 10 of those, and it costs you 5 minutes, that's 150 minutes a day of you not being focused. That's 150 minutes of you not being the best you at that time. And I'm sure that when doing that, if you're not focused this you and you're not the best you, things will take longer, whether it be that you have to rework it, whether it be it takes longer to redo it. That constant switching back and to costs us time. And by turning those notifications off, you protect your priorities. You know what's your priority at the moment, your objectives, and you know what you've got to get done today, then you need to focus on it. You're allowing others to do it. So turn off all of your notifications. But then how do you deal with those notifications? Schedule time. Read your email. Read your social media. Read your IM channels. Pick up voicemail. Whatever those different channels are that are interrupting you, use a specific time to deal with that. And when you use that specific time, because you've got your notifications turned off, if you're doing those, just do it. If you're doing email, just do email. Don't flick between email. I'll do email on the periphery. We seem to do that with a lot of these kind of, in quotes, admin tasks. If you're doing instant messaging, do them and focus on them, because then each of those items you'll be given the best you and do the best work you can do and do them in the most efficient and effective time. If you're doing anything, just do that thing. There is a concept of multitasking, and us as project managers are proud to manage multiple things at the same time, whether it's multiple projects, multiple streams, multiple issues, stakeholders. We do that. That's what we're good at. But multitasking is a hoax. Managing multiple things is one thing, but you can't multitask managing two stakeholders by talking to them at the same time about different things. All you're doing when you multitask is do two things less well than you could have done. And those things are critical to what you do. You should be doing the things that are critical. If you're not giving your boss the items your boss cares about, and you're letting someone else send an email to you and you get distracted by that, or you get someone else sending you a Slack message and you deal with that, you're not dealing with the things your priorities. One of my favorite bands, Rush, this this is this line has haunted me, if you like, for years. And if you choose not to decide to do something about these diversions, these interruptions, then you're deciding to let someone else guide your career. If you let the email pop up and divert to that, you're not doing what you're doing that you think is important. You're handing over control to someone else, and they are deciding what's important. Now, I know that some of you will maybe have some concerns. What about the big bad boss? What about your significant other? What about that lottery result notification? That eBay bid reminder? Well, use exceptions. Most of the tools that I'm talking about, your email, your WhatsApp, you can silence them and say only bring them up. Myself, I have a WhatsApp. I use WhatsApp a lot. Most of the WhatsApp chats, I don't have the notifications on. I certainly don't have the sound on. I only have the pop-up ones for ones that I think are important. For email, I have exceptions where my boss, that will potentially pop up if it's something important. And obviously, if you're in an industry where things are um, life critical, then you wouldn't do this. But most of us aren't. Use the tools, use rules to give your options. And I can't tell you which way to do it. It's important for you to do it. All these tools are able, but I urge you, and that's number one on mine, is reducing those interruptions makes you better at what you do, makes you more focused, makes you achieve better. And whether you take that time that you save from that and that efficiency to move your career forward or to, as I said, grab a lunch break, that is your choice. That's number one. Number two is a simple bit of advice, and I can let you know. Stop reading email is my next piece of advice. In this context, I stopped reading email 15 years ago. Email, there's too much of it for all of us to deal with. We spend too much time on it, and we never read it all properly. And a large proportion of it is garbage. It is nonsensical. It is not important to you. It's not important to your objectives. It's not important to your projects. So my advice is stop reading it. Him again. You have some concerns on this. And I'm kind of using it as a little bit clickbait. Your whole organization might rely on using email. Well, yes, most do now these days. What if you miss something important? Oh, yeah, that's a key. But I have to read it all. Well, I challenge a lot of these. I don't advocate ignoring email entirely, though I do know people who do that. But at the moment, we read whatever comes into us. And what I advise and what I use is to automate and prioritize and ignore email. Therefore, not reading them and reduce the number. Now, the way I do this I'll go into a little bit. I won't go into the details, but I'll go into what there's links to have a look at it. Fundamentally, when we make a decision, when an email comes into our inbox, the data is flawed. It's utterly flawed. We have who? Read the ones from the boss only. But what if that email from the boss is about someone leaving a cup on the drainer of the kitchen where you work, or a teaspoon's gone missing? You don't need to know that now. You don't need to do it. It's about when you need to deal with these items. Some emails are timely, some aren't. Maybe the subject. But sometimes, how often do people craft the subject very poorly and it isn't what they're really talking about? How often does a topic swap off that's completely different to the subject that was in the title? So that data is flawed. When it arrived, okay, so is items that are old more important than items that have just arrived? I don't know. It's not a good tool to use. Some people set the important flag for you, so surely that'll make it really easy to deal with. But then the message about the teaspoons or the teacup might have the important flag on it as well. So they're setting. I go back to my comments about rush, and if you choose not to decide, someone else is deciding what's important to you. Doesn't mean it's important to you. It's important to them. Doesn't mean it's important to you. Maybe it's got an attachment. Well, it might be an image in a signature. Is it top of the list? Well, what order have you ordered your emails in? Is there a due date assigned by the sender? Again, that date is important to them, not you. So as you can see here, none of this data is usable. None of it is flawless. Maybe we just use a random generator or a set of dice. So to do this, I mentioned that I stopped reading certain emails about 15 years ago. I stopped reading the carbon copy emails. Now, the reason I chose carbon copy emails is there's so many of them. 9 times out of 10, people are sending you that to cover their backside. First time I did this, I ended up leaving the emails I set up a rule, and I'll go into that in a moment, to move all of those carbon copy emails into another folder. And in that folder, I ignored it for the day. I held myself back. It was hard because I would just read emails when they came in. And at the end of the day, I looked in that folder and there was one batch of emails, 20, 30, I can't remember, all with the same header, all the same subject. And immediately I thought, what have I missed? What's going on? Am I in trouble? And I looked at the final email, and the final email said, thanks, all sorted, thanks for your help, something like that. And so I thought, okay. And so I read through the email. I went through to the end, and I identified that the first email in that chain, I would have got involved if I'd read it. I would have tried to help solve it. And actually, my team solved it. They didn't need me. I was redundant for that. Maybe for my ego's sake, I could have done that a little bit quicker. I could have done it a bit more effective for them. I doubt it, to be quite frank. I think that's just me making myself feel better. But they solved it. And since then, I hardly ever read copied emails. I automate. And I automate. There's Outlook rules, there's Gmail rules, there's Apple rules. Some of you will know this, some of you won't. They're very, very, very powerful. And by automating them to go to that folder, it meant that I no longer read the CC emails. And if it's the only thing you do today, I can't guarantee you, but I know from my experience that has reduced the amount of email I've read. That has reduced the time that I spent on email. That has reduced the time I've spent wasting my company resources reading things I didn't need to do to achieve the objectives. Him again. He's very worried. I know you have concerns there. There's risk. In the tooling, you can use exceptions. You can use the tooling to do whatever you want. My boss ones don't get filtered out. Key customers don't get filtered out. The management hierarchy, clients, etc. But actually, what's the real risk? We just talked about the flawed data. The flawed data is how you're doing it now. So if you're using that flawed data to hand others control over what you're looking at, and you're not choosing to decide what to read, then the risk is you will miss a key email from your boss. You will miss a key email from your stakeholder, from your team, because there is a noise of all the other emails. And with that risk, there's both risks in either way, but at least you made a conscious choice to say, those items I won't, and then tell people that's what you do. And if they choose to copy you when you have said, I don't read them, it's their fault. It's their problem. Now, it's all about managing risk. It's all about managing that workload. And we will never read all of the emails we've got because there are too many other more important things. And we shouldn't. There's too many other important things to do than reading all of the emails. And once you've taken on that approach, and to be fair, the tooling has very, very sophisticated rules, not just move to a folder. You can flag it, you can highlight it, you can do all manner of things that I've not managed to use all of it. You can mark it as unread. For many years, I didn't mark my CCs as unread, which created a level of stress, me seeing a large number that have been CC'd. So every so often I dip in. A colleague of mine I talked to recently said they always set theirs to read, and that's reduced the number of times I dip into it as well. Finally, when you've done all that, the commercial, uh, carbon copies are the ones I would target personally, because those ones are a simple, straightforward. Most people are sending you for information to cover their backside, not for action. Whereas carbon copies used to be for action, not for just information. They would get sent to be filed. They'd get sent to another area to use later. That's how the carbon copy arrived. It was physical paper. What you can do then is take that and take non-sensitive parts of your job, non-sensitive emails, and schedule a time to review them. Maybe training opportunities. The minute that comes in, you don't need to look at it. You can look at it later. Meeting invites. Again, sometimes they change, but if someone changes a meeting 5 minutes before you need to be there, it's kind of not them who ideal for them, and they can always call you. But most of them are invites for the future. So I'd move all of those into one folder and look at those at the end of a day, or when I get a chance, when I've got a chunk. I deal with a lot of them at the same time. That means if I've got some conflicting ones, I can look at a meeting, go that meeting, oh, that's more important. Oh, and that clashes with that. I'll accept that third one and reject the one above. Whereas if you take them as they come in and just accept them, then you have to rearrange meetings. All hands town hall meetings. Again, it drops into the meetings area, but information about those generic communications that you get from your comms team, usually from the same email address, put them in a folder, read them at a time when you've got some leisure. Maybe it's leisure is probably not the word, but when you have non-urgent things to do. Administration, expenses, timesheet. We talk about productivity. We talk about dealing with these things. If you have expenses, you have 20 people who send you an expenses sheet once a week. And you go into the expenses system 20 times, or the timesheet system. You get an email, you go into it, you deal with it, you come back out. You get another one 5 minutes later, you go in there, you come back out. Well, isn't it more sensible? Have 20 of those in a batch at a time you schedule in the week, tell them to get them to you before a certain time, and you deal with it one after another. Bang, 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 bang. Immediately you're cutting down that. We talk about lean processes. That cuts down that waste and that delay. Daily reports, when people are sending you daily reports on things, you don't need to read them straight away sometimes, or maybe you do. And that's it. Those two things: switch off your notifications and um, don't read your email or set up your rules. That is everything I had to say. A little bit of PR for my podcast, where I have lucky to have some great guests, and the book that Ageliki mentioned. And I think we're moving on to some Q&A. If someone wants to grab a copy of the book, there is a discount code for anyone here. It's I can't remember what it's at. It was just $3.99 or $2.99 at the moment as a digital version, or if you want a physical one, you can get one there. And if you want to listen to the podcast, it's anchor.fm. So finally, have Farasto, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Nigel, for the very interesting advice. I would encourage our audience, if they have any questions, to admit them now and to give them some time to do so. I think I need your professional help, doctor. I plead guilty. I have notifications on anything. I
Yeah,
check them all the time, immediately when I hear the clink or whatever, or my screen lights up. Um I think I do it due to fear of missing something important or
yeah,
delaying to address something urgent. And I think it's a kind of addiction now.
yeah. And I think I really
Every once a while I say, okay, from now on, you will, everything pretty much you said, but I just can't. It's like a diet, which every Monday you say, I will start eating better from now on, and by the evening, you had some ice cream. I mean, is there any chance I can quit? For example, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people from the audience have the same problem with me, the same addiction.
Yeah, I like the way that you drew it to a diet. I actually, when talking about it about productivity in general and about things and time management, things like that, the way I look at it is we can always get better, and we must forgive ourselves when we don't do the best we can. If you start a diet, well, you can't change what you haven't done. You've got to start again. If you start a fitness program, you've got to start again. And sometimes you'll stop doing certain things, and it's about redoing it. I think the fear of missing out that you mentioned absolutely is one of the key drivers, and that's the thing I found. And the only way to break that is to kind of push yourself through it, of realizing once you've got a decent period of time when you've been doing it, oh, actually nothing bad happened. Or and the email one especially, I think is really hard for people to do, and it was hard for me to do, because you say, what if I miss something? But you've still got that massive things that what if I miss anyway? And maybe you sit there and go, right, have a notepad by the side of you, and every notification that diverts you, scribble down whether it was urgent, scribble down, do a little with the gates sort of thing, and count how many are urgent and how many aren't. And if you look at it at the end of a week and go, oh, there's only 2 that were urgent. Okay, who was that from? Oh, that was the same person, or it was about this. Can I put a rule in place? Can I put an exception in place that relates to that? And that's the way that I would do it in that scenario. But you just got to tough it out, I think, is the main thing.
Yes, it's really tough. It's really tough, and I think it's a our era phenomenon. So
Yeah,
many distractions, so many apps, so many things.
yeah,
Sometimes it may also serve as an excuse to procrastinate things, but
yeah,
that's a different conversation, I think.
yeah. It does. It does. I
Uh,
do that myself. So how many of us get that satisfaction ticking off the IM messages, ticking off the emails that we've read, or anything like that? And that gives you that procrastinate. It makes you feel like you're achieving something, but you're not necessarily achieving your goals that you're aiming at. And sometimes, if you think about these on our phones, we are not only just handing over control to our colleagues or to customers. It might be to a social media giant. The Facebooks, the Twitters, they want your attention. And
yes.
if we let them have the attention, well, is that the right thing for you? Maybe check. And we all, I'm not great at it. I will flick Facebook on or LinkedIn on. I love
Yeah.
LinkedIn, but I have a look at things and find myself scrolling for too long. But I try to make sure the notification, if I get the notifications, I know that I'll be scrolling for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds. If I haven't got the notifications, I'm not dragged into there and lose that little bit of time down that rabbit hole, as I would describe it.
So it's kind of don't buy any snacks if you want to keep your diet.
It's perfect, yeah, perfect analogy of that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
perfect.
Can I also ask for another? You said about the CC emails, and most of the time is not something that you should know or you need to address. But does it work no matter what, or it has also it depends also on the way this CC thing is used? For example, there are companies or people or cultures that they use it even if when they address two people, for example. So you need to know, or it's just an excuse of mine again. This thing.
No, it does happen. People do use it as that. For these days, why do we use that carbon copy? Why do you use that CC is the thing? And if I copy someone, which is quite rare these days, it's for them to know about something if they've got time, to have that available to them. I'm not asking them, expecting them to have read it. I'm not expecting them to have used it. A little tip that I picked up not long ago was that in Outlook, I don't know if it happens in the other areas, where where we can do the @ symbol, as we were saying in the chat, and you can tag someone into it. If during the body of an email yourself, when you're writing it, you do @ whoever you're talking about, that will push it into the to box. So Outlook and Microsoft recognize that if you ask someone to do something in the body of an email, it should go to them, not copy them. And I think we should do it. I think everyone should do it. That's the key thing, really. I think
Thank
it's
you
just
very much.
we're part of the problem as well. It's like traffic. Yeah. If we copy everybody, we cause more copies for them, and then it creates that cycle. But culture's there. I can see a question from George there.
Okay.
And I think
we have another question. What if your boss demands to immediately respond to emails?
So I think that I go back to the risk anyway. If you have 400 copy emails in your inbox and half of them are from your boss and they send the one that they want immediate action, how do you know which of those is the one he wants immediate action from? The risk of not seeing it is still there. Now, there are ways with the rules where if you have a boss who is that kind of demanding boss that you do need to do it, you can put rules in to pop up on your screen like your schedule on your calendar. It will pop up. So you can actually enhance the amount of notifications if you want to, if you have that boss that is doing that kind of thing. But again, I think it's my view there would be a conversation is I'm only reading emails 2 or 3 times a day, whatever it is, explaining that. And if that boss is actually saying, no, you mustn't do that, it may be someone you shouldn't be working with, because or they should pick up the phone and give you a call. And but that's again, that's a wider conversation.
Yeah, I would say the same. He or she is not a good boss. So thank you very much, Nigel. I'm very intrigued to ask if you could name a couple of hacks briefly, but I won't do it because I tend to read your book. Thank you very much, Nigel, for being here today.
It's my pleasure, and Farso.